Wow. Mhm. I thought I'd start um, our gathering today reading from this little book of David White, Essentials. He is a marvelous poet, spiritual teacher, and really, you can. This is the kind of book you can just open it up somewhere and you'll be very blown away. I find. Um, I'm not really sure which part this is the way it's. I think this is. Let me just check. Make sure I'm reading the thing I intended. Interesting page layout. Not that anything would be fine, but I think it's actually. Yeah. No. Okay. So this one's called "Blessing for the Morning Light," and I think you'll see how it relates to what we've been talking about, but we can discuss that. The blessing of the morning light to you. May it find you even in your invisible appearances. May you be seen to have risen from some other place you know and have known in the darkness, and that carries all you need. May you see what is hidden in you as a place of hospitality and shadowed shelter. May what is hidden in you become your gift to give. May you hold that shadow to the light and the silence of that shelter to the word of the light. May you join all of your previous disappearances with this new appearance, this new morning, this being seen again, new and newly alive. So that is quite a related theme to us, right? When we've been talking about the shadow aspect of ourselves, right? And we've been talking about that, and here, what gentleness he talks about it, a place of hospitality and shadowed shelter. May what is hidden in you become your gift to give. And then may you hold that shadow to light so you can start fresh, right? This is the solstice time of year, and we didn't do a particular gathering for the solstice, although Janet held us in practice during Christmas Day, and which is essentially to me still a solstice ceremony, right? Talking about the shift of season fully into winter. And when we talk about light and darkness, to see the way they play together, it's very powerful not to prefer light over shadow. but it's also really good to have a way to light up the darkness when we're lost in it, right? So darkness is like a flavor, and if you're cooking and if you have too much salt, it's hard to eat it. It's like, ooh. But if there's a balance, it's just right. There's not enough salt. Sometimes it's hard to eat it. I like savory food. I don't know about. So Jung was big on, the idea that you can't just prefer light and ignore your shadow because it will come find you. And it will come out in the weirdest ways, sneaking up on you while you're trying to do your holy perfection. It will come out of you in these weird, unconscious ways that sabotage your attempts to be perfect. Or just really good, whatever level of hubris we have about it. But, maybe we're very humble about it. We're just like, look, I just want to be okay. But still, that could be a way of hiding. And the idea of spiritual bypassing is that idea of the Lord of mind and spiritual materialism, that addiction to a certain state that we try to cling to and keep at the cost of other things. So today we'll practice how to bring the light into our darkness of winter, the darkness of our own unconscious things, but also bringing them together with kindness. There's also, with the three lords of materialism, grasping to forms, physical things to feel good about ourselves or strong, like the whole better car, better this, better that, right? To try to make our image of ourselves or to get others to project on us value. But the ultimate value, as we know, is our own nature. We already have it. So how do we let it shine? And then the Lord of Speech, the second level of Lord of Speech is this kind of always having the right thing to say, always being right, or at least always kind of putting a wall between you and the world with your words, so that your words are so strong and clear and right that it's hard for anyone to touch you. You're kind of put words. We see that a lot these days. People trying to project their virtue or their awareness and their positive, training in being the right kind of person and saying the right kind of thing. And, we see that a lot. And it's there's good parts to that and bad parts to that. But the bad parts is the shadow part of that virtue signaling culture, is that if you're always trying to show that you get the right thing to say and the right way to be, you're implying that anyone who gets it wrong should feel really ashamed and really bad. And then you create this fear-based culture where people don't want to speak openly because they're afraid they'll say the wrong thing, which, by the way, in and of itself is not the problem. The problem is an inability to learn from making a mistake. That's the problem. Or an inability to ever make a mistake so we can learn. So if we're always just saying what we think we should say, everyone's afraid of that. That's Lord of Speech culture, right? It's controlling, trying to control the world through the right and wrongs of words and concepts. The Lord of Mind, the subtler level of the three lords of materialism, again, as I started with, is this addiction to special states of experience. And this includes the special view of, light being so inspiring and wonderful, or emptiness being so freeing and profound. And anytime we have an experience and we cling to it, what the teachers in the lineage said, Gampopa, the Kagyu master, said, even these good experiences, if you cling to them, they are the cause of suffering, even the good meditative experiences. Boy, that seems like, darn it. Hey, dragon. Showing off your cuteness in the window there. Just in front of the light with your shadow.
What you just said, Nick, reminds me, and so does that poem by David Whyte in some ways, reminds me of a poem by John Wellwood called Forget About Enlightenment.
Ah, what's the gist of it to you?
I can read it to you.
Sure.
It's forget about enlightenment. Sit down wherever you are and listen to the wind singing in your veins. Feel the love, the longing, the fear in your bones. Open your heart to who you are right now, not who you would like to be, not the saint you are striving to become, but the being right here before you, inside you, around you. All of you is holy. You are already more and less than whatever you can know. Breathe out, touch in, let go.
Thank you. Yeah, it's beautiful, Janet. Wow, how appropriate you had that on. We didn't even plan on that. So thank you for being so on the money there. John Wellwood, ironically, coined the term spiritual bypassing and was a student of Trungpa Rinpoche, and he got the concept from the Lord of Mind in the Three Lords of Materialism. That's where he was a student of that, and he kind of reframed it a little bit, but it's the same idea. You know, trying on to a certain aspect of our experience at the level of even meditation, it divorces us from what we really are, which is more and less than we think. I love that, right? So how do we bring light and shadow together in meditation? Well, there are many, many ways. And in the gestures, we've explored some of that. But today we will be practicing a practice which will be an explicit way of doing that. And one of the most dramatic examples of light and darkness maybe is the idea of daytime and nighttime, or being alive and dying. You know, that transition of falling asleep, being asleep, awakening. And even the poem from David Whyte is in the morning, blessing of the morning light, right? The reemergence from darkness into the shared world of seeing and hearing and being awake or conscious anyway. So there are many ways to do this. We will keep exploring, and yet I really wanted us to develop a relationship with light. Because I've been so, as a teacher, I've been so lenient with you about your visualization skills or sensualization skills. I'd be like, oh, don't worry about it. And it's true, don't worry about it. I'm not changing that. And sometimes I forget how many hours and hours and hours I've meditated, training myself to be able to do some of those practices. And it's a really handy skill. And it doesn't mean you're going to be good at it right away. And then I started thinking, I was like, you know what? Just because it's not easy right away, or just because the student doesn't have to have a particular experience, they do have a journey of experience that can increase in capacity. And I would be shortchanging you if I didn't sort of say, hey, here's a practice for practicing that, you know? So I'm going to give that to you. Now, filializing is just as important as seealizing. When we talk about visual and seeing, you know, feeling might be more important ultimately. So I would say that. I think many have realized that. But why is this a kind of practice that I want you to practice and us to practice in Sangha? Well, because for myself, it's like having you know that phrase, if you could bottle that, right? Yeah. And there's another phrase like magic in a bottle or something potion. I'm not probably saying it right, but there's, you know, like, in other words, if we had the capacity to snap our fingers and have an experience that uplifted us, wouldn't we want to develop that? Right. And so, yes, it takes skill and time. And in fact, I can say from personal experience, I kind of struggled with it initially, like comparing myself to the ideal image. And it was very visual, like that I should visualize like a picture or a painting, and then it will be helpful. But that hasn't been the case. It's not like that. It doesn't have to be like that. That's why I call it filializing much more than visualizing. Although I don't want to shortchange us there. I have put effort in to have some visual capacity in my mind's eye that I can see something while I'm feeling, and that is a help. You know, it really is a good thing. Now, that there is a percentage of mentally imagined very easily. Now, gosh, I'd love to sit down with them for 3 years and gradually see if I could train them into any increase in ability. Be a stipend. Anyway, the point is I don't know. Maybe it could work. Maybe something in that. I feel like a lot of people can't visualize because they don't practice it. We're not even a culture that imagines as adults usually, unless you're an artist or somebody in that kind of world. And some people are naturals at it, and maybe some people have a really hard time at it. But I think all of us could maybe get just a hair better. And here's the thing, we don't have to have a photorealistic image. That's not the point. So let's just throw that out the window right now. Not the point. It's more about, can we develop an energetic awareness of a mind-generated appearance using imagination, which can be, appearances can be in the form of sight, sound, smell, taste, touch. So I summarize that all as filializing. And the most important one is the inner feeling. What does it feel like when the light shines upon your skin, you know, and you're at the beach in the summer, right? You can just imagine that feeling of the sun. Isn't that powerful? That we have a physical somatic memory of. And, you know, so there are many ways to do it. So the practice we're going to do is going to have a chanting section, and it's going to be a practice that is a kind of calling to the Buddha Amitabha, who is the clear light Buddha, who, as you'll hear in the chant, you know, they are the Buddha that is generally associated with helping people when we die or someone dies to transition to a pure realm, which apparently they generated by the power of their compassion, an entire realm for beings to be born in called Sukhavati. And that's actually what we sing in our dedication of merit. When we sing the merit, that's actually what we're saying, right? May all these beings, whether I have a good or bad connection, may they be born in the pure land of Sukhavati, this place that is so good to be born in because things are easier there to practice Dharma than ordinary samsara, right? Now, there are many different Buddhas and Bodhisattvas that we could call to, but the calling to is actually an interesting thing. From a point of view of empowerment, it's empowering us in two ways. One, we have a figure of tremendous power and beauty that is actually in our imagination we are connecting with. And secondly, when we call with longing, we open up our heart. So when you bring those two things together, a powerful, benevolent figure and a longing heart, even if it's all happening in one mind, you've opened up your own power to heal and to receive blessings, as we say, which is really to come in contact with our nature. So we will do the chant, and then we will say a mantra, and repeating the mantra is a way of staying with the body is in meditation, speech is repeating the mantra, and mind is filializing this filialization, which I will give instruction for shortly. So we will just read through and chant together. I think Janet will read for us and give us the reading transmission of the text, and share. You can share on the screen, I think, too, and then we can read along. But really, we just can listen the first time, and then later we can share with you if you'd like it. You want to do it more. Now, the instructions for the practice are when we hear the instructions, and then we will do a period of chanting the mantra. During that time, I will then give instructions for how to imagine or visualize or meditate, right, with this particular practice. It's very simple, but very powerful. If you have a mala, you can use it, and if you don't need to use it. It's really fine. This is a traditional form of sadhana where we chant some words and then do a particular visualization and mantra, and then at the end we'll chant a little more to close the practice, and then we'll have some time to discuss and go a little deeper and in it. And the only last thing I'll say before we move into it and see if there's any questions, but part of this practice, I think you'll see from as you hear the liturgy, is about working with those little deaths of the eclipsing mind when we're present, and then we start to get drawn into a story or a part, or we're triggered by something and our nervous system acts up or shuts down, and we become kind of blended and eclipse into a somewhat more asleep state than our full awake state of being lucid and self-aware. So we could call these little deaths. And really the big death, when our beautiful subtle body separates from our beautiful human body of the four elements, we also then want this magical power of Amitabha to help all beings get to a better place. It's interesting, when people talk about the light they see in near-death experiences, a Christian might call that God, or Jesus, or whatever. A Hindu might call it something else. From a Buddhist point of view, we would say, well, that's Amitabha. Isn't that interesting? So it doesn't matter what you call it, but a benevolent light that loves unconditionally, that and as we know, in the near-death experience, there's often this life review. So I hope this isn't too complicated, and I just want to say this before we do the practice. It is possible while doing this practice, once we get familiar with it, and maybe we'll do it twice during our time, just so, two short sessions, so we can, ask questions and get a little deeper. But it is possible to bring up anything in your shadow that you want to bring to the light. Anything in yourself that is feeling like a little stuck, feeling sad about something, where we're it's heartbreaking when we are attached to something or stuck and we don't know how to let go of it, right? And we need help. So that's why these kinds of practices actually go beyond just us working with our own mind and relative identity, and we move into inviting a powerful presence to help us, right? So it is possible to bring up things. We can work on that more in the second session, but I just wanted to say, in case you want to bring it up in this first session and you remember, great. Otherwise, you'll be busy trying to do the little things I tell you to do, hopefully, and then we'll discuss it. But before we go ahead, any questions about this? Any questions about anything I've said? Any comments, any insights? And then we'll move forward. Okay. Janet, would you please read us the lung of this practice so we can do it together?
Supplication to Amitabha. Namo Amitabhaya, Lord of the Padma family, whose Dharmakaya body pervades the galaxy. Out of your unlimited realization and through the power of your magical clear light display, you generated a pure realm of Sukhavati for beings to be born into, protected from the rigors of samsara and nurtured into the maturation of their true nature. All of this only from your profound love of beings. Because of the essence of who you have been on your path, you aspired to be right there with people to accompany them in the terror of death. You saw how sentient beings became so afraid when dying, and you vowed for this never to happen again. You manifest as a great light of unconditional love at the time of transition. You are the clear light itself, the light which sees darkness itself. You are the blazing, immeasurable light of the power of the true nature. Whenever beings are in fear or distress or have left their body, we call upon you. When we connect with our own lucid clarity, are we not gazing into your beautiful eyes and seeing the pure realm in our own heart? At this time, we make the sounds to call your name, so the unending waves of indestructible, blazing love surround absolutely everything. Ultimate power of the loving Padma family, we beg you to come forth right now. We place the Samaya Sattva above our bodies in the sky in front, and as you blaze, with tears streaming down your face, like a child crying to their parents, we call your name again and again. Om Ami Hri, 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 Om Ami Hri.
So here we repeat like Janet, just Om, O-M, Ami, A-M-I, and Hri is H-R-I-H, Om, Ami, Hri. Very simple, probably to remember. You don't even have to say it perfectly, just try. And as we're saying Om, Ami, Hri, Om, Ami, Hri, in front of us, in the space above, slightly above and in front, we imagine, filialize a blazing light. It can be a white light, that it can be any color you want, but that brightness that surrounds all around you and feels like unconditional love. Om Ami Hri, Om Ami Hri. And as the light rays touch our body, it touches our heart, and from our own heart, our inner lamp of love shines back, albeit it might seem a little smaller because this is an immeasurable presence and we're sort of in our little bodies, but we're shining back into that big light as an offering of light. And this is the mixing of our mind with the Buddha Amitabha, mixing our lights. And as we shine the light back and the light's coming in, we feel that light mingling. Om Ami Hri, Om Ami. And that's it. Now, if during this you get distracted, you come back to the words, Om Ami Hri, Om Ami, and then the sensualization, you feel the light coming and going and mixing. As we get more familiar, here's where you might bring up things to purify and heal. But for now, we'll just stick with whatever feels right. And we'll do this for a few minutes together. Go team. peaceful light landing on us, healing, feeling deeply loved and completely accepted, shining back our own gratitude, mixing and lost into the light of Buddha Amitabha and becoming one. We're dropping the evaluative mind, so we're not judging ourselves or checking and comparing what we're doing. We're just trying to feel. We get distracted, we come back. We're feeling the light, or seeing and feeling, or just however we connect. And it's a practice. Om Ami Hui. And now Janet will read us the closing verses.
Blazing Lord, you inspire us because of your previous aspirations having come to fruition. When beings have their greatest fear, you shepherd them all to the clear light of your own realm being. When they are born inside of you, we can rejoice in their true, ultimate safety.
Wonderful. Any thoughts before we'll take a short break, a 5-minute break, but just any thoughts before we break, any feelings, any questions, any comments? Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
What does the chant mean?
Wow. Well, that's a big question. I love it. What it's essentially saying is that Amitabha is both a Buddha, a person who attained enlightenment and then vowed to help beings who have died to be born into a pure land or a place where it's easy to practice Dharma. That's the outer sort of meaning. And so we would call on Amitabha when a loved one or a pet dies or someone that we know of has passed, and we would ask for the help of Amitabha to kind of guide them to this light, this brilliance that helps them not be confused or scared in the intermediary state between lives. Depending on the person, they may or may not need that help, but it can't hurt, generally speaking. And then the other idea is the more inner level. It's saying whenever we have a death, this is the inner meaning. Whenever we have a death of our awareness where we eclipse, right, and shut down and become mindless or get blended with a part or a thought and we're not aware, that's a little death. And we're calling on Amitabha to wake us up with his clear light radiance. So when we do the practice, we're actually calling on this light to bless us and awaken us. And then as we get a little more confident with it, we're kind of like, well, hey, look, is it okay? I got a little shadow thing here. Could you do a little work on this? I mean, I know you're busy, but would you shine a little? And so what happens is it creates a safe environment for us to work on and learn from some of the things we hide in the shadow in an environment of real safety and support, right? Where we have this Buddha and their light blessings. So the chant is going on those two levels. The outer level is, hey, when someone's about to pass or has passed, please help them. And the inner meaning is, hey, we do this all the time. And we're always having little deaths. And can you please help us not be afraid of our own mind, essentially? And really, that's the key. When you talk about fear of our own mind, we're not afraid of our happy mind. We're afraid of our shadow mind, the parts of us that are, scared in themselves and come from either traumatized parts of us or parts of us that don't really know how to integrate or aspects of ourselves that are confusing to us. We'll talk about this more in the next part of the retreat, but I did want to say before we go, it's so counterintuitive. Like when there's a part of us that's stuck and really clingy and can't let go, it's like the last thing that part needs is for us to say, hey, you need to grow up now, right? That like scares them and they double down even more, right? But if we surround them with light and total acceptance, like the light that we hear about when people die does, right? When you do the life review, and this really is said to be that light. And so that kind of love, and it's sort of like, hey, this part of myself that's really young and clingy, what it really needs is to be completely accepted more than it's ever been accepted before. And then it can unravel some of its knots a little bit. It may come back into form and again and be like, I'm not so sure after the session, right? Somebody scares us and Amitabha's not there. We're like, I want my Ami. So but that said, during the practice, right, we unlock a little bit of that, and we can see, oh my gosh, there's a way to grow up into my nature here. So that's really the outer and inner meaning of the chant.
Okay, thanks.
Yes.
Could you say a little bit, maybe in 25 words or less, or you could do it later?
No, sure.
Just about the meaning of Om. I mean, it's pretty clear to me that Ami is a derivative of Amitabha, so
Yes.
short form. And then Hri. So what are we saying with Om Ami Hri?
Right. Yes. Good. So this is the whole liturgy and is very brief, and the mantra is very brief, which means it's composed in the Dzogchen style, where everything's done very simply and very short. That's their whereas some of these are it's like 5 minutes to start, 20 minutes to chant another thing. Then there's this mantra and that mantra. It's really complicated. That's not the case here. It's very simple. But Om means it's sort of the universal body of being. And so Om is sort of like all of existence. And it's often that mantras start with Om, the body of reality, you could say. And so it's sort of saying, it could be another way to say it's like nature, Om is akin to saying the seed syllable of like being or nature. Ami is a shortened condensing of Amitabha, and it's meant to be in this very almost like, I think the syllables of it are very interesting. I would argue that the reason that most cultures have Ama, Mami, Mama, like every culture, Abba, like they all have this, right? I would argue that it's innate that the sound of Amitabha's name is actually the sound of love in nurturing. I think it's more like that comes first, and then all cultures try to say that name. That's what I believe. But anyway, so Ami is the short form, is like it's an affectionate and a very intimate framing, like it's something you would say if you knew the person, which is unusual, right? But it's also shortening. When you shorten the name, it implies an intimacy. And then Hri is the seed syllable of humanity, or the realm of passion, which apparently is our specialty in the human realm. So, and as the Lord of the Padma family, as it says, Amitabha is the sort of essence of that syllable, that seed syllable. Hri is sort of the essence of Amitabha as well. So Amitabha is very connected with the Padma family, or the transmutation of passion into compassion. And so Hri is that sort of core energy or essence of the Padma, or that style of practice, right? So universal reality or nature, calling on the universal love of figure, and then saying the essence of humanity and life. And so you're basically, you're calling this particular kind of nurturing with that mantra. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's take a 5-minute break, and then we'll see what we can do next. So we could take a lot more time explaining line by line each the meaning of each line and all of that. And maybe we can do that in another session. Here, it's more, there's so many elements. There's the chant, there's the meaning of that, the different layers of meaning. And then there's the actual practice of meditation posture, mantra, and centralization. And once those 3 elements are established, then it's possible to start to bring in some things that might want to review with Amitabha, so to speak, and sort of heal, bring dark, what's in the shadow into the light of unconditional love. And of course, as we learn more about the liturgy and the chant and the meaning, it supports us on empowering practice of the centralization mantra and all of that. But essentially, we're generating a powerful energy of this light that can heal, that can give us, raise our life force, that can remove depression to some degree, or at least be a balm around deep sadness and heartbreak and accept it more fully. So it's a very, it has a, it's sort of like in many religions, you know, when you call for help, it's kind of considered very dualistic thing, like somebody who's powerful and has wisdom, and you're this sort of wretched creature that needs help. I mean, that's putting it bluntly, but the Buddhist tradition uses that. They just use it in a very particular, almost calculated way. Like, oh yeah, sure, I'm wretched. I have Buddha nature, but I may feel wretched. Fine, I'm wretched. And the being I'm calling to, they have Buddha nature and they've realized it. But guess what? They're not different from our nature, right? So it's this. It's not a trick in the sense of anyone's being deceived, but it's a trick in the sense of magic, a magic trick, in that there's magic in our nature and we open our heart. I think with this kind of practice, hey, Stephen, could you tilt your camera a little bit? It's cutting off your face. It's hard to see you. So if you could just tilt it back a little bit so we could see your face. Yeah, there we go. Thank you. You know, working with a visualization and a mantra and all this is just one way to practice. It's not the only way. But I'm introducing you here to all of us because I think this practice, you know, it has power to do a traditional sadhana visualization mantra like this. And it's a good thing to have. And some of us have different practices and there are others we can do as well. For me, I have a particular, you know, affinity with Amitabha and this particular practice, but the basic fundamentals of it are the same in any of these practices, whether it's a Tara practice or Avalokiteshvara, etc. So all these different bodhisattvas and Buddhas that one can call on, and you know, they're really all part of us, and yet they all have distinct energies and capacities. I wanted to read one more poem from the amazing David White here, because there's actually I didn't think it, I wasn't sure it related when I saw it, but I had to read it because oh, heartbreak. I love heartbreak. But actually, I feel like it's very much related to our ability to bring our shadow and our overwhelm to the light of awareness in this visualization, right? So this is related to that and how we regard that. So I'll read it and then we'll go further and see what we can do. Heartbreak is unpreventable. The natural outcome of caring for people and things over which we have no control, of holding in our affections those who inevitably move beyond our line of sight. Even the longest, strongest marriage has had its heart broken many times just in the act of staying together. Heartbreak begins the moment we are asked to let go but cannot. In other words, it colors and inhabits and magnifies each and every day. Heartbreak is not a visitation, but a path that human beings follow through even the most average life. Heartbreak is an indication of our sincerity. In a love relationship, in a life's work, in trying to learn a musical instrument, in the attempt to shape a better, more generous self. Heartbreak is the beautifully helpless side of love and affection, and is just as much an essence, an emblem of care as the spiritual athlete's quick but abstract ability to let go. Heartbreak has its own way of inhabiting time and its own beautiful and trying patience in coming and going. Heartbreak is how we mature. Yet we use the word heartbreak as if it only occurs when things have gone wrong. An unrequited love, a shattered dream, a child lost before their time. Heartbreak, we hope, is something we hope we can avoid, something to guard against, a chasm to be carefully looked for and then walked around. The hope is to find a way to place our feet where the elemental forces of life will keep us in the manner to which we want and to be accustomed, and which will keep us from the losses that all other human beings have experienced without exception since the beginning of conscious time. But heartbreak may be the very essence of being human, of being on the journey from here to there, and of coming to care deeply for what we find along the way. If heartbreak is inevitable and inescapable, our only choice might be to look for it and to make friends with it, to see it as our constant and instructive companion, and even perhaps in the depth of its impact as well as in its hindsight, to see it as its own reward. Heartbreak asks us not to look for an alternative path, because there is no alternative path. It is a deeper introduction to what we love and have loved, an inescapable and often beautiful question, something or someone who has been with us all along, asking us to be ready to let go of the way we are holding things, and preparation perhaps for the last letting go of all. Beautiful stuff, huh? So here you can see the weaving of the little death and the big death. And we don't just call Amitabha when somebody dies, like, it's like the Ghostbusters. Hey, somebody's house is haunted, call the Ghostbusters. Here we're calling the Ghostbusters when there's a little bit of a little duns attack, and we're possessed by a little bit of overwhelm or a spirit of confusion. So we don't just wait for the big finale.
That's how we mature. I love that so much.
Oh, I do too, Janet. And I think that's a lot of what Ruthie, my teacher, was really why she was so focused on teaching heartbreak at the end of her life. I mean, she said as much to me, exactly that in other words, but that's how you grow, really. when we make ourselves wrong for feeling heartbroken or overwhelmed, we are missing the point, right? Big time. And I think part of why we might shut down on ourselves when we're overloaded or heartbroken and look elsewhere is because it's hard, right? We're usually bereft of companionship in the way that we need it to take, they say grief is a communal process. It's bigger, it's an emotion that's bigger than an individual can handle. It takes a community, it takes a village. Interestingly enough, this is the kind of practice that brings in some kind of that social support, even within our own body and mind, by calling to the Buddhas and Bodhisattva. It's a way to approach grief, heartbreak, parts of ourselves that are frustrating to us, that are almost unnameable or unspeakable because we feel, well, I don't want to tangle and lose. I don't want to tangle with those aspects of my shadow that I don't feel like I can handle. Again, fear mind. So we
Nick, we can't hear you.
Nick, you're frozen.
Support us. Now, if we have no feeling from each other, the good news, there are images in tankas, very simple. Okay, hold on a sec. I'll be right back. Let me let me be right up. Can you hear me now? Thank you. Where did I cut off? Maybe I was talking too much. Hard to remember.
Just basically that whole last section where you were talking about, what Amitabha can help us with and holding those parts of ourselves.
Right. And also the idea that I'm not asking you to visualize a Buddhist deity that you don't know as much as this light of love, light itself that is love. Like, which, by the way, that is Amitabha. But nonetheless, you don't have to even visualize it. You can have a humanoid figure if you like, but really I'm saying it's just this pure light of love. And you can feel it. And as you practice this, and my hope is that we'll do this over time from here and there, we'll do this practice together and you will keep practicing. And as you practice, it will get a little easier to connect with. And as it gets a little easier to connect with, it will be more valuable to you. And as it's more valuable to you, you will know how to use it, when to use it, and you will benefit from it that way as well. That said, before we practice it again, I want to hear from you all what was challenging about that, what was good or easy or simple about it, what did you like, any questions, comments, anything you want to share with the group. I'd love to hear.
Nicholas, I keep coming back to this dream I had last night. And I had a dream that I was totally immersed in, where I did awful things. I was stealing money, I think from like a family type business. So I was like stealing sacks of money, literally trying to
Yeah.
sneak money out of this business. And I was totally into this. It's like, I couldn't believe, and when I woke up, how totally immersed that I really wanted to do this terrible deed.
Mm.
And it's almost like, it seems like I am so immersed in samsara. It's like, I understand now why they say it might take lifetimes and lifetimes to ever be pulled away from that pull of being immersed in just total, you know, you mentioned earlier about how in some part of your talk today, that I want to be seen in a certain way, that's so even though I want to be seen in certain ways, I know there's this part of me that can be totally, like bizarro, or I can relate to it.
Yeah.
Like, when I broke up with my last relationship, the pain seemed so unbearable, and that I just couldn't accept that reality in a certain way. Like, I could get totally lost in that and not even want to touch that because it was so painful, that sense of loss. So I'm just wondering, I know this seems like an incredible practice, but like in that dream, Nick, when I woke up, it took me a while to think, okay, that wasn't really real, or real, and that I am not, I wasn't there. I didn't really do that.
Yeah.
So how can you bring that practice into when you're having a personal experience like that, where you seem totally lost?
Beautiful. Thank you, Stephen, for sharing that. That's what we're going to do. And that's really a beautiful example of this, why we do this practice and how it works, right? Because like, I want to thank your shadow aspect for being so clear with you, because shadow often comes out in dreams. Right, and in the shadow is the parts of ourselves or aspects of our developmental self that are not really consciously how we identify, and it's not even necessarily what we mostly do with our behavior, right? But it's a part of us or an aspect of us that, because we don't accept it, it has to come out in dreams when we're unconscious, or in little funny moments when we say something like, why did I even say that? It was like we're compelled almost. And then we go, so that's sometimes the idea of a dun. The duns take over and nudge us in the direction of our shadow, and then they kind of disappear when we say it. And they're like, and somebody's like, why did you do that? Like, I don't know. So that's really what it's like. And I'm glad when you woke up, you didn't immediately go, oh, that's just a dream, because you would have been dismissing the hard work your shadow energy was doing to communicate with you through the dream. And because it was so convincing, that's a good sign. That means you're actually receptive to the message. And you could use this now as a way of getting more intimate with yourself. Because it's not that you're like, a felon who's stealing from a family business, unless there's something I don't know about. No, but yeah, I don't think that's, just kidding. But, that's not how you're showing up, right? That's a dream. But what's so interesting about shadow is you don't respect that. Like, you consciously are like, that's not how I want to be. That's not how I would want to behave as a Buddhist or as who I think I am, right? But there's the part of us that might be saying, hey, look, don't get lost on the story here. But there's a part of us that tries to sneak out a little extra for ourselves in a sneaky way. And I have these parts of myself too. They're kind of like, you know, hey, maybe I can get an extra cookie while everyone's looking the other way. And it's like, and it's something that, wait a second, why am I doing that? Right? And it's something usually that comes from a young developmental part of us, our role in our family, you know, something about how maybe we didn't feel we could get the cookie, so we felt like we had to sneak around. You know, I can relate as a younger brother, maybe. There's like a little bit of like, younger brothers are the best thieves, but because they're like, the big people are away, like, get it, this is my only chance. You know, so I wonder if that's true, actually. I wonder if they did a study of famous thieves, would they be younger siblings? I would almost argue yes, but anyway, who knows? But the point is I can relate to that energy of, and I think it's maybe a shadow part of, I don't know that I'm going to get what I need, so I better take it. And I don't know that I have enough, so I better make sure I'm covered, even if it's not accepted. I've never figured out how to get my share, and et cetera, right? So that I'm not saying that's you, my dear friend. I'm just saying it might be, but that's something I can relate to, and I'm just trying to unpack the dream, right? You know, how would you bring that? So first off, I interpreted the dream a little, whatever. That's not the main point. The main point is you bring that energy into the practice. So we'll read it again, we'll listen to it again. And then when we're doing our mantra, we're imagining the light coming in. And then once we feel touched by that, we shine our gratitude light back out and they mix. And that's the symbolism of devotion, leading us to our true nature and mixing minds with our teacher and with the Buddha. And it's a beautiful thing, right? It's quite literal, right? We literally have a way of remembering what we're doing, and we can kind of feel it and see it, right? So that's very powerful symbolism. Now, that's a little bit of a skill to develop and get down. But once we got that down, then you're going along, you got your mantra, you got your visualization, centralization, filialization, and then you bring up, why did I do this? And why would I do this? And the light of Amitabha is shining on you and reviewing your life with you with unconditional love. Why do I do this? Now, we will, in that light shining on you, it is likely, I'm not guaranteeing anything, it is likely that if I go, because I'm a piece of shit, you will feel the light of Amitabha, and you'll be like, Amitabha will be like, no, sweetie, I love you, right? This powerful love is like, no, you're not. Your nature is pure. And so we might catch ourselves beating up on it. That's great, right? Good practice right there. Every time we catch ourselves beating up on ourselves for making a mistake and we let go of that beating up, that is a victory. That is an investment in the future being less self-aggressive, right? Which is important. So that's one thing. Second layer is, okay, I'm not going to beat up on myself, but I feel really awkward. I'm being seen by this divine light shining on me, and I did something I don't like in my dream, or even in life, you know, that stuff's welcome too, all of it, right? But it doesn't matter. I don't like it, but I'm being drenched with love and acceptance, and I'm feeling it. You feel it coming in and surrounding your shadow feeling. Do you see how that somatically and psychologically leads you? It doesn't tell you better accept this or else. It just gives you not many options other than to go, well, wait a second. Why am I so hard on this? Think of all the people who have done things like that. They're not innately bad. I'm not innately bad, but why am I? So the light of awareness is surrounding this feeling. Now, what I found when I do this kind of practice is I soften. I melt a little bit. And I might even think, geez, I do try to pull a fast one sometimes. You know, you can only say that when you feel totally safe. You can never admit you made a mistake if you're about to be pounced on, right? People know that who grew up in violent families or families where it wasn't safe to be wrong. I don't have that conditioning, but even if you didn't grow up in a family that was violent like that, just even in society, right? We make this huge mistake
a kid comes forward. I think this was in one of the Christina Mace podcasts where she said, we do it all wrong with kids. They come forward, they say, I made a mistake, I stole the cookie. That's the moment we should go, oh my gosh, look at you, shining light of goodness to admit that you made a mistake. I love you. Thank you for telling me. You know, it's nice that you did that. Do you want to maybe give a cookie to someone else now, or, you know, whatever? Something, you know, like, you should celebrate. Instead, we say, how bad you are. Go to your room. Which is teaching the kid, don't be honest. Whatever you do, don't tell the truth. So, I mean, when she said that, I just was like, thank you, Miss Mace, for giving voice to something I've always thought was way off in our society, right? So this is a moment to reparent with the profound Buddha as the parent saying, you know what? It's okay that you're stealing. Why are you stealing, sweet Stephen? And you're like, oh, Mom, you free? I don't know. You know, you can literally not know. Keep the light coming. Keep shining your light back. Keep with the feeling. Something will click at some point. I don't know what, I don't know when, I don't know how. That's your business. But something might go, and you go, oh shit, I'm afraid I'll never get a cookie or whatever, you know? Or I'm afraid I'll never have enough. And okay, now let's bring the light into that feeling. Now let's accept that fully and unconditionally. You see how we're doing this now? Does this make sense? Yeah, okay. So that's why this stuff is kind of neat.
Amitabha has just held me and helped me hold so much about myself that I didn't want to see, that I was totally ashamed of. And sure as hell didn't want anyone else to see. But it's exposing it to that light, to that unconditional love, that it's like, oh, sweetie, of course you did that. Of course you did that. And then I can sort of loosen up around it and maybe even notice the next time I'm on the verge of doing it and have a little bit of choice, not feel quite so driven.
Oh, I love that, Janet. The aeration of those younger parts of us or patterns that don't usually get any air. They're so illegal that they have to do stuff that we don't know they're doing. They have to work under the cover of night in the shadow because they're not allowed. And as long as there's parts of us that are not allowed, we will have dreams about things that are telling us, hey, this needs to be brought in the light. And I don't mean to put you on the spotlight, Stephen. I mean, we all have those dreams. You're just the brave one who shared it today. But no, we're all, you know, yeah, we're all nodding. And this isn't, so but I mean, I'm just saying thank you so much for sharing, because here's the thing. When I have those parts of myself, I don't even always know I'm afraid of them. So that's why I was so grateful for your dream. And whatever, I see it as a sign of your practice, that you woke up, you felt it, and you didn't just drop it and bypass it or pave over it or say, now I will say, I take refuge in the Buddha, and ignore that. Like, that's what a lot of people do with religion. They're kind of like, now I will change the channel. It's like, no, that was the channel. That's the path. That's the stuff. So bring it to Amitabha. Now, I don't want to say too much more because I want to have one last session before we close, but I did want to just reiterate, having heard these near-death experiences, right? And you hear in so many of the accounts, not all of them, but many, the encounter with this unbelievable, vast light, bright light that is never remotely shaming of anything anyone does ever. I just want to pause for a moment and feel that. Just for a moment, contemplate that. A light that is so loving, there's nothing that anyone ever has done that it stops loving them. what if we could generate that love inside of ourselves? Or with the help of Amitabha in this case, right? Help of this practice. Yeah.
I wanted to make a spontaneous offering, and I have not run this by Nick. What if we could hold each other as Sangha members in doing this as a group practice, so that it's, you know what, it's not just you with your dream
Yeah.
about stealing things. And we don't have to say what we're working on. It's just knowing that we each have something that we're taking to Amitabha that day and asking him to help us hold.
Oh, beautiful, Janet. Thank you. This is a group practice. And so as we will do it, we will do it together for ourselves and each other. I love that awareness. Thank you for putting our finger on that. Stephen, were you going to share something?
Well, I'm just going to, I just want to say it's awesome to have a teacher like you, Nick, that I see you actually being like that type of light. You're just what I feel from you. Like, I think you could accept anything that any of us have done. And so it's just so incredible to have a real life example emanating that type of compassion and wisdom.
Stephen, thank you. And you know, my greatest aspiration is to be able to offer that to everyone and myself. And when I fall short of it, to re-emerge and never give up and keep going further in it, right? And so it's just like it's really that's those, you know, Amitabha's my superhero, right? You know, when you think of superheroes, it's like that unstoppable love. It's like, I know that is real. I know that is something to keep connecting with. And I feel at my best when I can do it for others, right? And myself. Like, that's when I'm like, yeah, I'm living my best life. When I get, you know, overwhelmed or I get scared and I can't, then how I respond to that heartbreak is also something I bring to Amitabha and that light and that unconditional love. And I raise up my chin and I look back up with longing, and I don't give up. And
You know,
that is almost more, you know, if any of my qualities is that when I fuck up, I keep trying.
I just realized that maybe one positive thing from a dream like that could be that maybe it could give me then the understanding of somebody else that might have committed a crime like that. You know, that whole way of looking at it from that point of view, that it could give me the compassion to be that way to somebody else.
Yes, that's the magic, Stephen. You just nailed
But
it.
It took me like
yes.
hours to kind of, and you talking for me to think about it that way. But thank you.
Yeah, but you got there. You got there. That's all that matters. You know, I mean, that's beautiful. All right, you're inspiring us. Let's try. Do you want to try the practice one last time before we close? Just to. Okay. All right, Janet, will you lead us and read it to us again?
You want me to lead, or you want me to screen share, or both?
Oh, you can do whichever, both. You'll be the chant leader, but if you can share it on the screen so we can chant, that's great.
Okay.
If you want. No one has to do it, of course, just if you want.
Can everyone hear me?
Okay. Yes.
Namo Amitabhaya, Lord of the Padma family, whose Dharmakaya body pervades the galaxy. Out of your unlimited realization and through the power of your magical clear light display, you generated a pure realm of Sukhavati, beings to be born into, protected from the rigors of samsara, nurtured into the maturation of their true nature. All of this only from your profound love of beings, because of the essence of who you have been on your path, inspired to be right there with people to accompany them in the terror of death. You saw how sentient beings became so afraid when dying. You vowed for this never to happen again. You manifest as a great light of unconditional love. The time of transition, you are the clear light itself, the light which sees darkness itself. You are the blazing triple light of the power of the true nature. Whenever beings are in fear or distress, have left their body, we call upon you. When we connect with our own lucid clarity, are we not gazing into your beautiful eyes and seeing the pure realm in our own heart? At this time we make the sounds to call your name, so the unending waves of indestructible blazing love to absolutely everything, ultimate power of the loving Padma family, we beg you to come forth right now. We place the Samaya Sattva above our bodies in the sky in front. As you blaze with tears streaming down our face, we call you. Like a child crying to their parents, we call your name again and again. Om Mami Hri, 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 Om Mami Hri.
So as we're chanting Om Mami Hri, the light is sensualized or felt to be coming towards us, this unconditional bright light. And as it hits and reaches our body, we feel loved. And when we feel gratitude for this, we shine back our light into mixing into that light. And it's lost into it as a oneness, a beauty. And now once we've established the essentialization and the basic mantra, we can now, if we haven't already, bring forth a particular shadow aspect, something we're ashamed of, that needs the love of Amitabha, or a part of ourselves or in our life, something we can't let go of that's painful, or something that we feel stuck with. And we bring that up in our mind, continuing the filialization of the light of unconditional love reaching us sending our gratitude light back into that light. And then we open up to this feeling and let it, just staying with it. And we're not trying to get rid of it, change it, fix it. We're just seeing what happens as we bring our shadow into the light. Om Mani Shri, Om Mani Shri.
Blazing Lord, you inspire us because of your previous aspirations having come to fruition. When beings have their greatest fear, you shepherd them all to the clear light of your own realm being. They are born inside of you. We can rejoice at their true ultimate safety.
I know we're at the end of time here, but if anyone wanted to just share of what that session was like in closing, any closing thoughts, that would be fine. Just we'll end in the next few minutes. But it was difficult to synchronize all the different elements, don't worry. That's why I call it a practice. We will do it again. Yep.
I think you might be, oh, there you're back now.
Ah,
You were frozen there for a second.
okay.
In the first practice we did, and I was visualizing the light coming down, and that was powerful. But then you said to then put forth your light,
Yeah.
and for some reason I couldn't do the two, so it felt like my light was like a car, you know how like if an engine won't start, it's going put, 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 put. Like a little burst of light, but it wasn't like, you know. Then in the second one, I tried focusing on a shadow, and that was better for me. I could have the light going and coming a little more freely, but not to the extent that I want it yet.
Ah. Oh, Lori, that's amazing. Even development between just 2 sessions, right? And I just want to say, having done, I don't know if it's a good or bad thing, but thousands of hours of this kind of thing, I have gotten more confident in what I can do, and I think it's so much of it is just like learning from like, oh wow, I can't do that, wonder why, and then that becomes the teacher, right? And then I relax a little, and sometimes it happens, and I go, oh, I was trying too hard, or this or that, or who knows, you know, there's a million reasons. I'm not saying that for you, but just pointing out that it's part of the practice. So beautiful that you could share that just in 2 sessions, a shift there. That's wonderful. Good for you.
The second one was easier for me as well. I think it helped when Janet was sharing the chant and just doing the actual physical vocalization of it helped me. And
Great.
yeah, it was seemed more accessible that the second time. Really liked it, in fact.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, we'll be doing it here and there more going forward because it's a great little practice, right? And it's something we will, if you'd like to have a copy of it, we can send that to you for the chant. Yeah, great. And we'll have to do it again anyway because Linny wasn't here. We gotta include her in it. And so maybe we'll do some more next week, but it's so exciting to see how you all related to it and what a great session. I'm so proud of all of us. That was rich and everybody brought their full selves, and go Sangha, go team. So let's sing the dedication, which is, as we mentioned, to Amitabha's pure realm of Sukhavati. All you sentient beings, I have a good or bad connection with. As soon as you have left this confused dimension, may Western Sukhavati, and once you're born there, complete the bloomings and the path. Yay! Do-do-do-do-do! Emaho! exciting. See ya.
Thank you. Bye, Nick.